part 2 in our discussion on Ayurveda assessments, radionics, dowsing, and using tools as part of your assessment skills. As part of your assessment skills. Okay, part 2. All right, let's go to the first page in here, which is radionic assessment, step 1. Now, also, let me do one more thing before I get there. So, considering where we came from in the construction I laid out for you in the first part, then what I want to be crystal clear about is that because of everything that I described, that clearly we have the ability to tune into the innate and to do so in such a way that we can get a constructive, concrete information in response, which we can then use to, as part of our assessment. Now see, I'm not saying exclusively, because it is totally subjective, okay? But we can use it as part of our overall assessment to be able to decide what is a way to go with the client in front of me right now. What do I need to emphasize with them right now? And also to move out of just the wham bam, thank you ma'am, repetitive type of working where we keep doing the same session for everybody, hoping that the results will be different enough to be justifiably individualized because I'm working on a different person. But I'm pretty much doing the same thing with everybody. But I'm expecting the results to be persnickety. I'm expecting the results to be individualized to the client. And I want to say that history experience in practicing medicine for thousands of years would say that's ridiculous. It's a ridiculous assumption. General work is nonspecific because it's generalized. And specific addressing of concerns is far more effective and far more reliable and consistent positive results for individuals with complex lives and histories and pathologies and so on. It's proven to be the most effective way to heal people. And the generic is proven to not be the most effective way. So I want to recommend against it. I want to recommend that everybody, as quickly as they can, work on their assessment skills and then have criteria that you can bring to bear to be able to make use of what you gained from your assessment. And then to bring that to the individual client. Okay? So yes, we can do that. And so we use amplifiers. We use tools. Again, this is an offshoot of what I call Taylor, Tool Assisted Energy Line Release. Okay? But in that particular equation, the tool assist is using a tool to magnify, to amplify my communication with my innate, and therefore my innate's communication with your innate, in order to give me a clearer drug picture, it's called. And then I can take action from there, what's most appropriate therapeutically for you, based on what I have in my toolkit. Okay? All right, now we'll go here and we're going to talk about tools. Now, does it have to be a pendulum? The answer is no. I told you. It could be a sticky pad. It could be a stone. It could be a Y-shaped twig. It could be a necklace. It could be a stick that you find outside in the yard on the ground. Okay? Or any other similar object. Now, it just so happens that pendulums is a traditional tool. It's one of the traditional tools. Just like when we talk about toksin, we're talking about an implement to apply pressure and another implement to hit it, to bang on it. And usually in English, we call that other tool a hammer, called a hammer. And there are different, or a mallet. There's different kinds of hammers and mallets and chisels and tools and so on. Okay, but they're all the same thing. They're extensions of your hand, which is an extension of your intention. Tool-assisted energy line release is using anything outside of yourself, not contained within your skin, to assist in the energy line release or in the balancing protocol that you're going to do. So certainly a pendulum is a tool. And it's a really good one. So the reason we use pendulums is because it is the most obvious, the easiest to read of the diagnostic tools. Easy to read. Everybody can learn to read a pendulum diagnostically. Why? Because everyone has an innate. Everyone has that innate intelligence that's constantly in real time in the world trying to communicate to you what's going on in your life and around you, and what's going on in the life and physicality of the people around you. Everyone has that. Okay? Step 1, hold the pendulum above the middle of the up and down. So I have this chart, which is a real simple chart. It's a cross. Real simple chart with a cross. Okay? Which means it has 4 corners and a middle. And then I've got some indicators on the outside. Now I'm going to go ahead and hand out some pendulums. Let's just set some out here. I'm not 100% sure what I have in here. It's just a little stash. So these are variations of what are called marmot pendulums, okay? This is an Adamark pendulum, which is modeled after a shape that's found at Temple of Karnak in Egypt, okay? It's a heavy brass, but it has a pointer. But the broad, heavy base there functions as an antenna, and you'll notice it's hollow, and it's like a parabolic antenna. Okay, so each different style or kind or type of pendulum is famous for something. Okay, this is the most basic traditional shape of a wooden pendulum. It's actually quite light. Okay, many people start with those. And notice I'm not using the New Age kind of crystal-y kind of pendulums. Why? Because the crystal attenuates the energy in a specific way. And so unless that's my intention and I want the attenuation in the specific way that only quartz can do, then I won't use a quartz pendulum. Okay? All right, this type, this is a optically clear lucite pendulum, which is considered the favorite by many radionics practitioners, is using this. And I know you say, well, it's plastic, that's not natural. Well, nobody said the pendulum has to be natural. You know, and certainly I'm not going to say that, because some of the most famous radionic practitioners and doctors in history, this was their preferred pendulum. And actually, when Dr. Copeland made my Mark II for me, this was the pendulum he included with my Mark II. Okay?
Is the length of the string significant?
It is. It is. The question was, is the length of the string significant? And the answer is yes. We'll talk about that in a sec. Okay. Here's a pendulum. This style of pendulum has a receptacle. So just like I said, I don't really prefer crystal pendulums because they have a specific frequency that they resonate at, and unless that's what I want to work with, I don't use them. This is kind of the answer to that, in that you take your gemstones and you put them in the capsule. Ta-da! So if I want rose quartz pendulum, then I just put rose quartz chips in my pendulum. But however, here's a really cool thing about this. I can put water in here. I could tune the water, aka Masaru Emoto technique, that I put in here, and now I can tune this almost any way, especially good for emotional use. Okay, here's another thing that I can do with this. I can take a sample from my client of their hair or their fingernails. We even used to use blood, okay, and put that in the well to represent real-time essence, heading for that MOR, that mortal oscillatory rate of the individual, specific individual. And then I can use this to, for example, very good for determining potencies for a particular client's, for a particular client's medicine. But I'm using their hair as the witness as I douse the potency, or I douse the supplement, or if, and so on and so forth. Now, normally I would collect the sample from the client, hair or fingernails, whatever, and then I put it in a little bag like this, in an envelope with their name on it. Okay? So these can be quite useful. So already depending on your use, you can have more than one kind of a pendulum. Okay, these, let's go here. Okay, this is a new one. I don't think this has ever been open. All right, Ken. There's a new pendulum for you. And you can have it and you can use it in class. Okay, here's one for you. You cannot have it, but you can use it in class. Here's one for you. You cannot have it, but you can use it in class. And see, these are really nice brass. It does not matter, it does not affect their use if they are polished or not. In other words, is it shiny brass or not? That has no impact on its operation. Brass just naturally tarnishes. Here's one from Temple of Karnak in Luxor. Okay, this is the actual pendant that was made by the engineer who measured, photographed, and scaled an actual hieroglyph of an Egyptian priest using a pendulum, and then went home to British Columbia and made one to the exact same specifications. Now, he guessed on the brass. So the only thing that we don't know for a fact is perfectly authentic is we don't know the alloy of brass that the priests used to make their devices. There are some existing pendulums in collections in Egypt, but the government of Egypt will not let you examine them, will not let you hold them, will not let you weigh them, will not let you, do a spectrographic analysis of the metallurgy. Wish they would. Then we could actually make a brass simile to go with the pendulum, okay? This is a really powerful pendulum in that the definitions that it gives are very strong. The indications are very strong, right? So sometimes if I'm not clear about the results I'm getting, I will change the pendulum to one that, for me, gives a more definite sign. Now you might say, well, why don't you just use it all the time? Well, I don't need to. If I use one like this and I get a strong signal, I'm happy with that. No reason to use this. If I use one like this and I get a strong indication on the lucite, now I don't need to use this because I already got my answer, right? And also in the radionic game, you want to learn how to do this thing, not to do this thing that people do, which is you ask for an answer, you get it, and you don't like the answer, so you ask for it again because you didn't like the first answer. And then there's this it's kind of a tie concept. If you don't get the answer from Spirit that you wanted on the first try, you just keep asking till you get it, because eventually you will. Well, that's cheating in radionics, and it doesn't work. You want to do exactly the opposite. You want to ask the clearest question that you can. If you're uncertain or unhappy about the answer, then ask a different question that will clarify it. But don't just keep asking the same question, waiting for it to give you a different answer, one that you like. Okay? Now, examples of non-pendulum-looking pendulums. Of course, this is a jade. This is from Thailand. This is a jade Buddha amulet. Okay? It's a carved jade Buddha amulet. Jade is considered very energetic. It's very high electrical potentials, very high ionic potentials, very high with far infrared, so on and so forth. And so you can use this, just, you read it more broadly because it doesn't have a pointy indicator. All pendulums don't have pointy indicators. Some of the most famous pendulums in the world were just balls, round balls, right? And so you read it not in fine gradations, you read it in directions. 4 directions, 8 directions, static, concentric spin, eccentric spin. And when you do that, you don't need a pointer. Okay? Don't need a pointer. So a lot of the monks will use their amulets to test something or to ask a question. All right? Here's another one, another traditional Egyptian symbol, which is the silver ankh. Okay? And so the ankh actually works very, very good as a pendulum symbol. It seems to have built into the symbol the radionic antenna and amplifier circuit. Of course, it's also one of the oldest cross symbols. Okay? And very much resembles an orthodox cross. If you added another bar at an angle or two, you literally make this a P, right? And then one bar here, and second bar like this. You have an orthodox cross. It's kind of interesting, right? And considering that the Coptic church and the Syrian church were so near to India, it doesn't surprise me that there may be some crossover in symbolism. Doesn't surprise me. Because there's not just one way to make a cross, and there never was. Some early crosses are X's. They're not like we think of as a Christian cross at all, because their understanding was the crucifixion happened on a traditional Roman cross, which was an X, and with arms up here and legs down here, and your head was not supported. Okay? So it was like this, not like this. Okay? I'm not an expert in that, so don't hold me to it. Okay, so set this aside. So get your pendulum, don't care which one. Actually, I'll get one just like the one you're using. That's fair enough. Fair, as my Australian friends say, fair dinkum. Okay. I have no idea what a dinkum is. If anybody in the comments wants to let me know what a dinkum is, and much less why it matters if it's fair or not, I would be very open to hear that. Okay?
I'll do research and let you know what I find.
Okay, what's a dinkum? All right, in Australian terms, or New Zealand, right? Okay, so basically you have the structure of the pendulum, and then by some means or another, like this will come out. Okay, why? Because if the string breaks, you get a new string, thread through here, tie a knot in it, and then reattach it. Okay? So it's actually made for you to wear out the string. Okay? The string has 2 beads on this model. All pendulums don't have this, but you can see even in these, see the bead? See how they have the beads? What are those beads for? Okay. The bead at this end by the knot is just a sensory thing and also a capture thing to help you not drop it. You know, it gives something to have resistance in your hand. That's what that bead is for. Okay? However, this bead is the important one, the one in front. And notice on these, there's a round one and there's a tubular one. Okay? The round one shows you where the end of the string is. That's as far back as you can go, or unless you're going to hold it like this, which is possible, to keep you from dropping it. Okay? However, the way we use it, and the most common way, is you put it in your hand, and then depending on if you want to read it fast or slow, okay, you adjust this bead here, and this is called the adjusting bead. And what this bead does is it adjusts the speed of response of the pendulum, and it responds the loudness or the subtleness of the pendulum, however you want to interpret that. For example, the further back this bead is from the pendulum, then the slower and bigger the swing. The farther forward this bead is, the faster and smaller the swing is. So if you want it to respond quick, you move the bead forward. And some charts are better for quick. This chart is good for either fast or slow, small or big. Okay? So now, so for you, where do you set the bead? I don't know. I'm not you. Okay? So what you do is you can start with it doesn't matter, honest to God. If you start with it forward really fast and really short, now also when I go too short, now my hand's in the way. It makes it a little more difficult to read. All right, so you hold the string in your hand and then loop the string over your index finger, and then that bead goes in the crease, the fold of your first finger. Fold of your first finger. Now, why is that important? However you're going to hold your pendulum, hold it the same way every time. Don't hold it this way one time, and this way one time, and this way one time. And why? Because you're not expert at reading your innate, and we have to learn how to differentiate our wants from our needs. And when you hold the pendulum erratically, you get erratic results, and you don't get consistent results. And you can't tell if the results are you or your innate or the client's innate. So, I'm just giving you one of the secrets. Whatever you decide to do, once you're settled on what works for you the best, hold it exactly the same way every time. And then your process of reading will be fast because you don't have to adjust. You just pick it up and go. Okay? But before you know that, before you get to that point, then you can start fast or you can start slow. You do your training, and then if it works, great. If it doesn't work as good, choke up one way or the other until you get the control feature of your pendulum that you're looking for. Okay? So the first skill, and this is in the written instructions, but don't worry about it because I'm here. Okay, so I like mine a little bit further, maybe not quite halfway, because I want to be able to see the swing clearly. I want it to be moderately fast, but not too fast. I don't want it to be lopey or too big or slow. Why? Another reason is I don't have all day to wait for the pendulum to make up its mind. And the bigger the loop, the bigger the lope of the pyramid of the pendulum, the longer it takes to get the result, to get a decent result. Okay? And remember, I'm in a session. I'm on the clock. I don't have all day to wait on this, hoping someday I'm going to get a clear reading. I just don't have the time. Okay, so here we go. Exercise number 1. Actually, go ahead and take your book apart. Pull the page out so it'll lay flat. You can put it back together later, I promise. Now, when you get home, go to Staples, have them punch holes in this thing and put it in a spiral binding so it'll lay flat. I didn't have time to do that, so you do that, okay? And in the interim, don't fold it, because when they go to put holes in it, it'll be harder to center the hole puncher. So don't fold it. Increase the page, right, until you do that. He's like, now you tell me. All right, so now, okay, so let's talk about hand width as your first measurement. Width of your hand, that's how far you want the bead from the pendulum. Width of your hand. So we're starting with a uniform measurement for you. Width of your hand. That's where you put the bead. Top to bottom, width of your hand. And then I showed you how to hold it. Yep. Then you just take the bottom fingers like this. Okay? So far, so good. Somehow, that's not the width of your hand. It's too short. Further, that's not it. You got about a 1/4 inch more. See, I can just see that. Okay, here we go. Now, first thing is, hold it over the center of the cross. Now, you can hold your arm freestyle. When you first start practicing, I don't recommend it. All right. For now, it's actually better if you rest your arm or your elbow on something. Okay. But as soon as you can, don't do that. So when I'm doing the assessment, I hold it freestyle because I want this whole arm as part of the amplifying circuit. And this deadens the circuit, which makes it better for exercise. Just like when you're learning how to shoot a rifle, you actually do better learning how to shoot a rifle if you have a rest. In other words, if you can put the rifle on a rest and then shoot for a while, it's far easier to learn how to get a sight picture and trigger pull and breathing and all that if you're not worried about trying to hold the rifle steady while you're trying to shoot. Okay, so we prefer to use some kind of a rest, a pad, a pillow, a stand. Some are made for it, but it could be anything. Okay, that's the principle here. I'm using a stand that kind of dampens the circuit a little bit, but it makes it easier for me to do exercise. All right, first thing is hold it over the center. Dead center over the center. Now watch me before you do anything, because you don't know what to do yet. Are you holding it? No. Okay. Hold it over the center. Now, tell the pendulum to be still. Wait. Wait. Tell the pendulum to be still, and then be still until the pendulum stops moving. Tell the pendulum to stop and be still. Say it. Stop.
Still, pendulum.
Say stop.
Stop.
And be still.
Be still.
Now, say stop and be still, and then hold the pendulum over the center until it stops moving. Or close enough. Eventually you can get it to stop. Now here's the other thing. Next thing. If it's still moving too much, look at me. If it's still moving too much, then what you do is while you're holding it, stop, be still, but it's not, just touch the center, barely touch the paper, and make it stop, and then lift it back up and do it again. And then if it doesn't stop, go back to the paper, touch the center and say stop, then gently lift it up and do it again. All right, do that 10 times. Stop and be still. Wait. And really by wait, I mean just like 10 seconds. And then if it's still moving, touch the center of the cross to stop it from moving completely. And then raise it up and then do it again. Stop and be still. Now you can say it out loud or you can say it in your head. But do it 10 times. Okay, great. All right, now we have possible answers, okay, which are indications. A strong positive indication is a clockwise circle. A strong negative indication is a strong counterclockwise circle. But before we get to that, we got to get to basics of yes and no. Basics of yes and no. Now the way you practice yes and no is you have to use something that you know the answer to, true or false. So yes could be true, no could be false. Yes could be yes, no could be no. But it has to be something that you know the answer to, obviously duh. Okay? So first thing, you start with your still point in the center, stabilize if you need to, and then you say, is my name, and say your name.
Is my name Is my name Thomas?
Okay? Then you ask yourself a question that you know is obviously no. Okay, you with me? So, is my name Bobby Lee?
Is my name Bobby Lee?
Nice. Now, sometimes that hard motion, down left or down right, is hard to read. So that's where we come now to the rotation answer, where a right turn concentric motion is a yes or positive, and a left turn eccentric motion is a no. Now let me show you. I'm going to exaggerate. So here I am. I center my pendulum, basically still, and then I go, my name is Anthony, or is my name Anthony? Then I wait until I start to get a clockwise circle. Now, if it doesn't start moving, I have to move it. It's not cheating when you're learning and when you're practicing. So that's a clear yes. Now, I'll stop it, stop, and really just put the brakes on it, back to center. And then if that doesn't work within about 5 seconds, I'll tap it on the paper and stop it, make it stop. And then I'll go, is my name Bobby Lee? And then I'll wait. And if my name is not Bobby Lee, within about 5 seconds, I should get a rotation. If I don't, then I have to make it go counterclockwise. Look at there, that's a big no. Big no. My name is not Bobby Lee. Okay? So now let's start with your name. And here, wait. And when you ask questions, don't just say, my name is, and wait for the answer. My name is Anthony. My name is Bobby Lee. Nope, that's a bad question. It's an improperly formed question. A question starts with is. Is my name Anthony? Because what I want is a yes or no answer. If I say my name is Anthony, it could say yes or no. Because maybe it is, maybe it isn't. Yes or no. Maybe sometimes, maybe it's really I prefer Tony. Right? But if I say, is my name Anthony? That's yes or no. There's no other answer. So when you're practicing, you want to ask questions that there's no other answer than yes or no. You know? So for example, I could ask a question. Is this person holding the pendulum a 20-something black man? No. It's a yes or no answer. Is this person, now I'll bring it back to stop. Always stop before you ask another question. Don't ask another question till you clear. Okay, so start with your name and do that 3 times.
Is my name Connor? Is my name?
No, you got to wait for the answer. And then if you don't get an answer within about 10 seconds or so, make it go to the proper direction.
Stop. Still pendulum. Is my name Connor?
Okay, now after you've done that 3 times, let's do the counterpoint. Is my name, make up a name. Okay, so start from the middle, then ask the question, is my name, fill in the blanks. And it's got to be a yes or no, clear, yes or no.
Is my name Michael Jackson?
Yep, and here's the funny one. Don't ask questions that reflect secret information. So if you see yourself as the Michael Jackson or Michael Jordan, the Michael Jackson of dancing or the Michael Jordan of basketball, don't ask that question, am I Michael Jackson or Michael Jordan? Because secretly inside, you might actually identify as Michael Jackson or Michael Jordan. So don't do that, okay? So pick something, obviously no, to be your obviously no. Pick something obviously yes, then pick something obviously right. Now here's what I want you to do, homework. Okay, look up, homework. Next time you're going to practice, make a list of 10 yeses and 10 nos. Clearly, 10 yeses and 10 nos. And then douse each one of them 3 times. So that's homework. And clockwise is yes. Counterclockwise is no. Okay, now, back to center. Back to center. But we have other possible answers when we're asking questions. Sometimes you ask a question and the answer is not available at this time. Not available at this time. Okay? So that is this middle position on the vertical axis. Look at me. It looks like the pendulum swinging straight, up and down. So the first motion we had was still. The second motion we had was yes, still, no, still, and then not at this time. See that? So it's going up and down, straight. So you want to learn to recognize the geometry. That's why this chart is really genius. Okay? Because it's like some people say the answers are at the cross. Well, that's a cross. Okay? Now, so answer's not available. So what do you do if the answer's not available? Do you quit? Ask a different question. Don't just keep asking the same question. You already got the indication the answer is not available at this time. The answer to that question is not available at this time, which could be an indication of your question creation is not appropriate for the issue. Because you're thinking about one issue, but you're asking a question that doesn't actually encapsulate what you want to know. Do you understand me? Because we're talking to the innate. The innate knows if you're BSing. The innate knows if you're confused. The innate knows if you're not being precise. Your innate knows that. Okay? And then it'll give you that answer's not available at this time, waiting. Waiting means, and I need to come back to this. The vertical axis is waiting, which means you can come back to it. Which means you can just sit there and maybe in a minute you'll get an indication. It's the left and right the left and right of the cross is the answer is not available. Left and right, answer is not available. Up and down is waiting. Now sometimes you'll ask a question and the first thing that you get is waiting, and then you'll get yes. Or the answer is not available at this time. You come back and ask again and it goes on the diagonal, no. So if I'm holding the pendulum in my right hand and the pendulum swings out to the right, that's no. Okay? If I'm holding the pendulum in my right hand and the pendulum swings in to the left, that's also a yes. So that's the same as a clockwise rotation. So it can be a diagonal pull or it could be a clockwise rotation. Okay? Any questions so far?
Seems like the first magic 8-ball.
All right, so let's run down again one more time what our choices are. 1, no question, still starting point. Then question, true or false, clockwise, or stop, counterclockwise, stop, or down left diagonal, yes, or stop, down right, diagonal, no. So I've got clockwise, counterclockwise, down left, down right, vertical, up and down, waiting for an answer, or left and right, clear, answer is not available at this time. So that gives me nothing, that would be number 1. Clockwise is number 2. Counterclockwise is number 3. Diagonal left is yes, number 4. Diagonal right is no, number 5. Vertical axis is waiting, number 6. And left and right cross is not at this time, 7.
So clockwise is yes, and so is diagonal left.
Yes.
Or both yes.
Yes.
Y is
Yes. See this? See this?
yeah.
Yes.
Why is this also yes and clockwise?
Because it's yes.
Would you please give me an answer unavailable?
So what I'm giving you here are the basics of the conventional use.
Okay.
Okay? And this is what works. Always when you're trying to acquire a new skill, start with what works. Then if later you want to develop your own way of doing things or system, or maybe you're in upside down world and counterclockwise is a yes for you and clockwise is a no for you because you live in upside down world, that's perfectly fine. Okay? But do not do that to start because you will not be able to trust your results. Okay? So, now, let's go ahead and... Any questions about that? Any other questions about the chart?
It's a good way to train.
It was interesting because I was only getting yeses with rotations and nos with rotations until I said, stop, be still. Would you please give me a non-rotation yes? And it started.
Correct.
And then
Correct.
I asked about the no and I asked for a waiting position. I was always saying please.
What we're doing is we're giving the innate 7 different ways to communicate to us. In other words, 7 concepts, 7 answers to communicate with us. Okay? Which is better than just yes or no, for example. Because later we'll also get degrees, percentages, and nuance. See, not just the big bold yes or no. Do you understand? Or waiting, or not at this time. All right, now let's move on.
Actually, I had one quick question.
Go ahead.
A real question. Did you say that there was a difference between a swinging yes versus a rotation yes, and one is a stronger yes, or
You'll have to determine that for yourself. Okay? For me personally, I get both, depending on the chart. Now, do you have to have a chart? No. Can't you draw this diagram in the sand?
Yeah.
Couldn't you just, once you know it, couldn't you just grab up a sheet of paper and draw a cross on it and a couple of circles and just start asking questions? Couldn't you just do that? See, the value of the chart, like, do you even need a chart? Answer is no. No. Can you do it on the palm of your hand? As long as you're clear of the geometry on your hand, yeah, you can do it on the palm of your hand. Okay? So you don't need to have a chart. And you can also make your own charts. Okay? You can also make your own charts. Once you understand the philosophy of chart making. You know, what are the parameters? You got to have a starting point, and then you got to have indication, room for indication. The closer the demarcations are on the chart, the harder it is to read. You got to really be able to note that it's on this and not on that, right? The harder it is to read. If vision is a problem, then you need bigger demarcations. Just saying. All right, let's go through this. The assessment page real quick. All right, step 1, of course, hold the pendulum. All right, sit up, Connor, listen. Read with me, follow along. All right, step 1, hold the pendulum. Up and down the line. Make it swing towards you, away from you, while saying this is the waiting position, ready for a question. All right, step 2. Hold the pendulum over the clockwise circle and make it move in a clockwise direction, telling it this is a clockwise circle. It is the signal for yes. So, for example, now I'm taking my pendulum. I'm developing a relationship with my pendulum. Let's put that under this chapter. Lesson. Developing a relationship with my pendulum. So I'm going to hold it over the clockwise circle. And I'm going to say, clockwise is a positive indication and is the indication for yes. Show me clockwise. Then stop and then go over the other one. Counterclockwise is the indication for no. Show me a strong no. So what I'm doing is I'm training my pendulum, but I'm training myself to be in harmony with my pendulum. So I use the graphics to enhance that. All right. Repeat steps 2 and 3 till you have success. Step 4, hold the pendulum over the counterclockwise circle. and the no circle, and do the procedure again for no. And then alternate between yes and no circles. Step 5, repeat this procedure, understanding that if the question is poorly worded, it is not understood, is beyond your dowsing ability, or should not be asked, then the not available signal should be the response. So if you ask an inappropriate question, like you're trying to find out something about someone you're not supposed to know, really, how to rob them. Is there a way I can rob them successfully without them knowing? Yes or no? Well, your pendulum should refuse to answer that question, whether it's true or not. It should either say waiting or answers not available. You got to ask appropriate questions based on the level of trust and responsibility you have with the person, based on the permission you have with the person. Don't do anything else with it. That's witchcraft. So that's where you cross a line into magic and black magic. Because now I'm using, instead of using my powers for good, and I have powers, I'm not using them for good. And that's sin and black magic and inappropriate and anything else. So just don't do it. And don't even experiment with it to see if you can. It muddies the water and opens you up to influences you shouldn't be exposed to. Okay, repeat all steps until you're successful and clear as to the response or reading. Now ask simple questions such as, is today Tuesday, or is John my name? And then do the whole thing again. Now repeat. I told you it's a draft. I was going fast. Just thinking yes or no. Just thinking. In other words, not saying. Whenever you start a new session, it is advisable to ask that you be shown the yes or no signals being used and change them if need be. So what's going to be the strongest signal for me to assess Thomas? Circle or line? Circle or diagonal? And then I ask my pendulum, what's going to be the strong signal for him? And it might be a circle or it might be a diagonal. Okay? Whatever it is, then that's what I'm going to use. Start developing your dowsing experience, testing new skills with basic and clear questions. Go slow and allow your mind-body interface to learn how to communicate with your conscious mind. Actually, it's unconscious mind. Which then to your conscious mind, allowing you to touch or tap into the issues in order to be of service to others. All right. Now we're going to go just a couple of charts. We're not going to do them all. They all work the same way. Okay? So for example, chart number 1, page number 1, dosha emphasis. Okay? So I have the 7-day protocol at the top on this page, and I have the doshas on the bottom. Okay? Now, Therapeutic Day protocol is all 7 sessions. There's nothing to douse. Okay? However, there is one little thing. Which session, is there a session, you could go yes or no. Let's go back over here. Yes or no. In the Therapeutic Day protocol, do I need to emphasize one session over the others for this client, for John Doe? And if it says yes, now I come over here, I do my stop on the point, hold it still, and ask the question, which of the 7 sessions should I emphasize in the Therapeutic Day protocol for this client? And then I just wait. And then what will happen is this. If nothing happens, all right, look at me. If nothing happens, then there's nothing to emphasize. If nothing happens, or you get the left right, that means just do it. There's nothing, no special emphasis at this time. Okay? Now, if I ask the question and I get one of these, 3, 5, 7, then when I get to that session in the therapeutic day, I add emphasis. I do it harder, I do it longer, I work the lines more. Do you understand?
Yeah.
Greater emphasis. Hold the stretches longer, go further. Okay? Because then I'm going to look at, it's going to choose one of these. Red, orange, yellow, green, blue, purple, indigo, white, gray. Whatever it gives me. If it gives me just flat, back and forth, then that's no, there's no emphasis at this time. So no answer at this time now is translated to mean no emphasis at this time. All right, same thing. I can ask another question. So we go to the doshas. So the question is, does a specific dosha emphasis work for this client now or not? Do I need to emphasize dosha for this client or not? In other words, a vata emphasis or a pitta emphasis or a kapha emphasis. So we start with our still point. In this therapeutic day program or this particular session, do I need a dosha emphasis? And if so, which one? And then I lift up the pendulum and I just wait. And if I get nothing or horizontal, no, it's general. If I ask the same question, do I emphasize a dosha for this client today? Then I'll just wait. And if it pops up and down, well, that's obviously pitta. If it jumps over to the green, do you understand? Then that's obviously kapha. If it does nothing but swing left and right or hold still, then there's no dosha. If it circles one way or the other, there's no dosha, because that's not the appropriate answer for this chart. Okay? So circle right doesn't tell me yes or no which dosha. Circle left does not tell me yes or no which dosha. Do you understand this?
Mm-hmm.
Do you have a question about it?
Yes.
Connor, do you understand?
What would be, how would you know if it was waiting or?
There is no waiting on this chart.
On this chart, no waiting.
Because the question is there a dosha emphasis for this client, for this session, or for this protocol? And it's a yes or no.
Okay.
To a specific chakra. It's either no, or if it's a yes, it points to the dosha.
Okay.
Yes is an indication of the dosha, right? No is flat, and on this chart, there's no other answer. So if your pendulum does anything else, it circles to the right, it circles to the left, it jumps up and down, that's pitta. It's not waiting. See, vertical axis here is not waiting. Vertical axis here is pitta dosha. Vertical axis on the first chart is emphasized what? Session number 4, abdominal. Okay? Because there is no waiting answer on either of these charts. All right, let's continue. Let's do another couple. Just flip it over. We'll do a simpler one, but which is more complex than the others we just did, and a very complex one. More hard to read is when I say complex, I mean more hard. The top one is complex because it actually gives you 4 different indicators for your answer. Okay, read the title. Therapeutic Day Chakra and Color Selector, Emotional Issue Selector for BET or tapping. So you can get a chakra for a therapeutic day emphasis, you can get a color for therapeutic day emphasis or a particular session. Like, for example, this chart, you could ask the question, what color would be the best adjunct for therapy today for this therapeutic day session number 2? Okay? And then if it gives you red, then you use red. If it gives you blue, then you use blue. Do you understand? So you can ask, what color should I use today in this session? And this will tell you the answer. If it goes horizontal across here, there's no color, so just do it. It doesn't matter. It means it doesn't matter. Nothing is better. Okay? If it gives you orange, then use orange. How can you use orange in a session?
You could shine light through carnelian.
You can shine light.
You could lay
and
orange peels on them.
you could lay orange peels on them. No, they're orange.
Aromatherapy.
Absolutely. No. But the orange peels, not the aromatherapy.
Right.
Unless the oil is orange.
Okay.
There is such a thing as colored essential oils, which are used for their colors, not for their scent. How about that? Colors and not for their scent. Okay? You can put methylene blue on a piece of paper
Blue tansy.
and put that on their heart or put that on their stomach. That's blue energy. Okay? You could use blue sheets. You could use blue pillowcase. You could, I don't know, if you had a blue icing cupcake and you could put that on their stomach, and that would be blue. And then you have the added benefit that you say if you're a good client, you can have the cupcake at the end of the session. And then, see, that would give them a positive association with the blue. No, but in all seriousness, anything blue.
And lay it on their stomach or whatever.
Anywhere.
Chocolate.
Shine it on them, lay it on them. And if you don't know, if you want to know what part of the body to put it on, use the chart. What part of the body needs a color emphasis while I'm doing session number 3? And here's another way that we've done this. Crayons. Crayon markers, washable markers. So take the blue marker and mark them up. Put blue on the third eye, put blue around their navel, put blue on the loam, put blue in the palm of their hands, put blue on the bottom of their foot with the marker. And then, of course, you can wipe it off at the end of the session so they don't look like some strange tattoo person. Okay? Do you understand? So blue markers. Now, you can mark the client, or you can take a piece of paper and you can draw something with the color. Could be basic geometry, or if you're artistic, draw something that comes to you while you're looking at the client. But draw it in the color that you want to bring to them for the balancing. Do you see how that adds another dimension to your session? Or that'll tell you what crystals to use. Right? What are red crystals? What are orange crystals? What are yellow crystals? What are green crystals? So you should have a collection of crystals that you can use. You should have a collection of color markers. Or here's one I use. I'm not going to drag them out, but so I use therapeutic glasses that have all these colors. So I'll pop the glasses on you while I do the session. You're getting indigo the whole time I'm doing the session, because I put the indigo shades, or the bright orange, or the, right? So I have therapeutic glasses that are very precisely colored, okay, that I can use in the session. You can get the cheap ones, because you're not really going to be reading or anything with them. So you can go on Amazon. You can get a whole spectrum of colored glasses, therapy glasses, for like $20, right? Or like mine would.
Oh, always find joy in the smallest of things. That is what we found in you. Oh, 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 you are joy. Never give up when the going gets rough. Hope is everything you need. Oh, 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 you are hope. Oh, 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 you are hope. And don't forget you're not alone. The Holy Spirit wants to guide you.